we know Chinese brands are gaining a reputation for being innovative. But what does that mean for their global outreach, and how are Chinese companies in general investing overseas? Well, let's bring in Brendan Ahern, Chief Investment Officer with Krane Funds Advisors, for expert analysis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rachelle.
So how would you describe the current perception of Chinese brands now globally versus in previous years?
Well, certainly Chinese brands are being recognized as being innovative, cutting-edge technology. At the same time, there might be short-term headwinds in certain geographical areas. So I think Chinese companies are flowing to where there's demand for those innovative solutions and technologies that may or may not be here in North America or South America, Europe, Asia, Africa. They're going to flow to where there's demand for those innovative solutions.
And speaking of those headwinds, what would you say that the main challenges are for Chinese brands who are trying to expand overseas, especially amid this tone of protectionism that we're seeing in some regions?
Yeah, Rachelle, it's a little disconcerting that here in the short run, here in North America, we have some slight headwinds from isolationism, protectionism. At the same time, Chinese brands offer great solutions, innovative solutions. That demand overcomes a lot of those issues. It just means in the short term, Chinese companies are going to have to pivot to those areas where they don't face those short-term incremental headwinds. So that could be maybe focusing on Asia, focusing on the Middle East and or Africa, where we don't face necessarily some of those short-term impediments.
Now, in terms of what Chinese companies can do to boost their brand recognition, not just at home but abroad, what can they do to really boost their global appeal?
Well, a lot of these Chinese companies themselves have become massive global brands. They're very well known from investors. Companies like Tencent, Alibaba, Baidu, JD. These are companies with hundreds of billions of dollars of market capitalization. So as investors, we're very much aware of what they do. You know, Tencent with WeChat, 900 million monthly users. Alibaba, they just grew revenues 56%. At the same time, as consumers, do those of us in Europe or in the United States, do we recognize what these companies do? Do we offer those solutions? So I think the Chinese brands have to get out in front of consumers, really highlight themselves in order to make that migration from a brand to a solution that is highly desired.
And we're certainly seeing a lot of Chinese tech companies kind of venturing into different areas, whether it's groceries or other non-traditional tech industries. What do you think of some of the steps that they're taking as a way of using that to really build their global recognition?
Well, when I visit China, the things I can do on my mobile phone with Alipay, with WeChat, I simply can't do here in the United States. So I think what Chinese companies are doing is they're taking those solutions that have been adopted at a very high level within China and really transforming that for the local markets. So that can be online to offline, right? It can be electronic payments. It can be cybersecurity. I think they're really trying to migrate to providing solutions for the U.S. and European markets. At the same time, really the bread and butter continues to be within the local market that's growing very rapidly.
And what do you think these strategies say about where China's economy is heading?
Well, certainly China has migrated from export-driven manufacturing to domestic consumption. Chinese technology, internet, e-commerce companies have become the transmission engine for that domestic consumption that's taking place online. And that's something that I think is increasingly becoming aware as China's service sector has overtaken export-driven manufacturing as the leading sector within the economy.
And as we look at the outlook for Chinese firms' overseas investments for 2018, what are your expectations?
Well, I think in the short term, we do face some of this isolationism, some of this protectionism here in North America, but that's not the case elsewhere. So I think Chinese companies will flow to where their innovative solutions, where their technologies are highly desired. At the same time, I think they have to prove out their worth here in North America in order to show people all the incredible things that you can do in China that you simply cannot do elsewhere globally. The Chinese have a huge advantage. They just have to prove that out, create consumer demand. That solves all problems.
Well, thank you so much for your insights. Brendan Ahern there, Chief Investment Officer with Krane Funds Advisors.